staying positive and keeping the positive energy blast going out there. There's a lot of people, struggling, going through tough times. So I want to be that wave of light in the darkness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree. I totally agree. Let me, I'm trying to see if I can get this on my page. Did you?
Yeah. I'll share it right now. Let me share it to you. And then
Gotta get you some play, man. More business the better, right?
Oh man, I'm gonna tag you real quick. So
okay. Yeah, we got to get out the one of the top realtors in the county.
Oh man, thank you so much.
And all the houses that you post, I'm like, geez, I wish I could afford those. Maybe when I'm 120, I can afford them.
Oh, come on, man. You're ready. You're ready now.
Let's see. Okay.
So, yeah, I'm going to put it right now.
I tell you what, a lot of us who refuse to become technologically savvy will become technologically savvy with the current state of affairs, man.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's happening.
Yeah. I did my first Zoom consultation last week. Went real well.
Let me see. You should be able to see it. Okay, yeah. Should be able to see it now on my page. You can share it on your page. And, man, I'm happy to have you with me.
I appreciate the invitation, buddy.
Yeah, definitely. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, first of all, how are you doing? How's the family doing?
I'm good, man. I spend my time at home. I get in the truck, come to the office. I'm pretty much the only one here, and there's nobody in the building. Turn around and go back and do the same thing the next day. So keeping busy and keeping active for sure,
So is legal advice, legal services, legal representation, is that like an essential service right now?
Well, the way that things are at the courthouse right now is that as far as the family courts are concerned, and we have 11 family courts, including the protective order courts.
Okay.
But the county engineer has shut down, as far as the family courts, all but 3 open courts. So the family courts are hearing essential matters like child protective services matters, enforcement matters, if somebody's not paying child support or somebody is not allowing visitation. If somebody is in jail on a capias for an enforcement matter, the courts will hear those. Habeas corpus matters. If I'm entitled to a child under an order and my ex-spouse won't give that child back to me, I can go in on a habeas corpus. Those are considered to be essential matters, but everything else is being reset by the courts, if not the attorneys. So
now, so these are like emergency hearings. Somebody's denying rightful possession of a child, or somebody's not paying child support, or the protective court is this as far as restraining orders of violent domestic abuse and such. Is that what?
Well, the protective order courts are open to hear domestic matters. I think I got you on my phone. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We're good now.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out how to share you. Are you on your luxury page?
Yeah, of course. I'm all luxury. Always luxury all the time.
Let's see. Oh, here you go. I'll show you right now.
Yeah. So, so only certain cases are being heard right now. And I'm assuming these are like high profile or emergency cases.
Yeah. Well, they're the cases that need resolution right now. So if somebody files a request for protective order in a protective order court because of domestic violence, the court obviously needs to hear that and hear that immediately. So that's an essential matter. If somebody's in jail because they did not pay their child support and they got picked up by the police or the constable because the capias was issued because they did not show up previously, well, they don't want to sit in jail, so the court will entertain that immediately.
Okay.
So
Yeah, because
those
they
are
could be in jail for about 4 or 5 months as long as this is going on. I mean,
oh, no,
if
no,
they
no, no,
can't
they'll
go
make sure
see
they
a
have
judge.
parole. Well, no, in a protective order matter, they're going to make sure. I mean, an enforcement matter, they're going to make sure they get them before the court. So if a respondent is in jail, they're not going to let them sit there unnecessarily. They're going to have a hearing as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. So
Right.
that's good to
Right.
hear. That's good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's the right decision. But other things like temporary orders, regular trial settings, where there's not an immediate dangerous issue to anybody, all those are being reset.
Okay.
Yeah. So the courts have put out a uniform order that applies. It's good through, I believe, May the 8th. That gives examples of essential matters, non-essential matters, advises attorneys that their cases are being reset. But they're also referring to each individual court that may have its own individual rules on how to address the current situation. For example, one can have a meeting by Zoom or a hearing by Zoom, but both parties have to agree to it. And if one does not agree to it, not going to happen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm not an advocate for divorce, but if somebody wanted to file divorce right now, I need to file divorce. I need to go see the judge. I'm gonna go talk to Anthony Magdaleno. Are you able to file, divorce proceedings or child custody cases, or are you gonna say, hey, look, unless this is urgent, but in somebody's mind, it is urgent, right?
Well, you gotta sit down and talk to them, whether it's via Zoom or from 10 feet away in the office, and have a real life discussion with them about what's going on. But the state of Texas has an interest in maintaining the marital relationship, as do I. In fact, I've turned people away who I don't think, or a potential client away who I don't believe a divorce is good for. But if somebody comes in and a divorce is necessary, you can still file it. That mechanism is still working, and the clerks are working remotely from home. But you can file, and they can accept those cases. So that has not been disturbed. The family courts uniformly have now made it a point to issue ex parte temporary restraining orders in all their cases that are going to apply to both people. Don't destroy property, don't harass or threaten the other side, and what have you. But it can get filed. But if somebody comes in and says, I hate my spouse because they did this to me, and I don't want them to have the kids, and I want to get into court right now and be heard. But you ask them, hey, but how do they feel about the kids? Oh, my spouse loves the kids, but I don't want him to have those kids or her to have those kids for this reason or that reason because they were messing around behind my back or something like that. It's not going to be an emergency that's going to get you into court immediately. I mean, the kids are safe. One is upset with the spouse because of the spouse's behavior, but that's not going to get you into court right now.
Have you recommended marital counseling in situations like this where you say, I don't really think this merits a divorce, or maybe they just need to cool off? I mean, have you recommended, hey, why don't y'all go talk to the pastor or, marital counselors and, go to a few sessions and just kind of cool off?
Sure. I mean, the worst time to make a decision is if you're extremely emotional. And people that come into the office are extremely emotional. And sometimes so much so, you can just tell that they want a divorce out of anger. They're mad. And I told one guy came in once and he was like, Anthony, I want a divorce. And we talked, I'm like, I think you need to sort of step back and wait. Anthony, I want a divorce. I mean, he was very persistent. Finally, I'm like, look, I'm going to be here in 2 weeks. Go home. Think about this. Call me back in 2 weeks if you want to come in, and if you want to go forth, we'll go forth. Never heard from him again. and the lawyer who referred him to me, I talked to the lawyer. I said, "Whatever happened about so and so and so and so?" He goes, "No, he and his wife decided to work it out, and they worked it out." So he was just very, very emotional, and divorce wasn't good for him.
You see, that's what I love about you, though, man. I mean, you're so honest and ethical. And I know for a fact that you would tell somebody, if you didn't think that this was, I think right now you're just in the heat of the moment.
Right.
Why don't you go have a few beers and,
I mean, I'm here to
meet with a friend or something.
Yeah. I mean, they're thinking emotionally. It's not my responsibility to think emotionally, but think with my head and what's best for them. I mean, that's what they pay me for. But if I wanted to make money, I'd be doing what you're doing. I wouldn't be practicing law, so I really love what I do.
Oh, come on, man. Well, I got, like I said, I got some $1 million houses for you.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. That's great to hear. I love that. I love the honesty and the ethic. And the thing is, as somebody's fiduciary, as well as I am when I'm representing somebody, you got to put their interests above your own.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that's great about you. I know for a fact that you certainly do that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. So the right thing to do, man. Yeah,
absolutely. So I know the Texas Supreme Court has come out with a few different things, modifying orders or saying, can you kind of speak briefly to that as to, what they've come out with saying, hey, until this date, we're changing orders. I know one thing they did is they said there's no evictions in April.
That's correct. The Supreme Court has entered its own orders clarifying things for people and extending deadlines in light of the coronavirus situation. For example, early on, when schools started closing, some parents were calling me, and they called other lawyers as well, saying, wait a minute, it was like during spring break, and it was like, wait a minute, school is closed, so I can keep the child just forever, right? And I've told those people, no, you can't do that. You've got to follow the terms of the order. And then the Supreme Court came out with an order basically confirming that in light of the situation, you still have to abide by the terms of the order. And even if the school ends before spring break ends, you still have to follow the schedule of the school that was in effect. So if spring break ends on Sunday, but school's out because of the virus situation, you still got to return the child on Sunday before.
I think, again, I'm not an attorney. You're the one. But I think that the confusion lies in a lot of those orders say, to return the child the day before school resumes.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, and so since school wasn't resuming, it's kind of like, well, I'm just going to keep them indefinitely, until school resumes.
And that is a fair position for a parent to hold. I mean, it's confusing. It's a fair position to hold, but that's why the Supreme Court came out just to clarify, so there was no question. And they actually also came out basically saying that the terms of visitation are going to apply even in light of the stay-at-home order. So the stay-at-home order issued by the county judge, or I guess by the governor, is not going to affect the underlying court order, which obviously governs the visitation and relationship between the parents and the kids. So it's a good thing. I think the Supreme Court's put out like 9 or maybe even as much as 12 different orders for different things, including the eviction we were talking about. And they still may come out with more just depending upon what happens. They've also extended some deadlines in CPS cases because of the virus situation. But quite frankly, I think, and this is just my guess, I could be wrong, but I think the rest of this month and into May, we're sort of going to be in the same situation we are now. But you got to do what you got to do.
Oh, absolutely. I've been asking everybody that I've been bringing on the show. No one knows for certain, but what do you think? How long does this last? When can we start getting back to normal? I know it's going to take time, because when you have an event of this magnitude, it's not like you just flip a switch and everything goes back to normal. It's a snowball effect. The American economy is like a train. So when you stop the train, it takes a while to get the train going again. It doesn't just, start again. And so, but when do you think we can at least begin getting back to work, begin opening up businesses and such?
Well, the thing right now is that we're dealing with an unknown virus, and you've got to be more proactive than not. And so it's better, in my opinion, it's better to overreact than not to react enough because of the consequences of not acting enough. And so I'll certainly leave it to the medical experts to determine when it's safe to go out and congregate again. But I have a lot of confidence in the American economy and the American worker. And we're a capitalistic society, so can you imagine how busy the restaurants and bars are going to be when this is over? I think there's going to be a waiting line. I mean, people are not going to want to be home. They're going to want to get out.
That's a great way to put it. I haven't heard anyone say that, but now that I think about it, I think you're absolutely correct.
Dude, I'm ready to go out every night after the thing passes, and just be out and about. So I think things will take care of themselves. And the interesting thing also is that under the current circumstances, we're having to evolve. I'm set up for Zoom now, so I can Zoom conference with people, which means if I had a lady that wanted to come in from San Antonio and talk to me, but we never did. But now that I have Zoom, post-virus, if somebody from out of town wants to consult with me, I can do it via Zoom. And I'm set up. And so
it's a huge save on your time.
Yeah. So we evolve. You evolve to the situation in positive ways that you would not have before.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, my office is clean now. It took me 2 weeks, but I cleaned my office. I feel like a new man because I have a floor. I actually have a floor. So
all case files on the floor.
Oh my gosh, it was a fire hazard, but not anymore. So we'll just leave it to the experts. I'm going to listen to somebody that's going to make a decision that I would make if I had, mom, dad, sister. If I was married, I had a wife. If I had kids, that's going to be best for them.
Yeah.
And if I think somebody like Dr. Fauci, I think he's making the decisions like that I would make for people I love. So I'll use my common sense, and if somebody says you can go out and party at restaurants tomorrow, I'm not going to go out and party at restaurants tomorrow. I'm going to hang around the house.
But 1 month from now,
if things get better a month from now, and things are settling down, and we've reached the
flat line.
Or we're going down.
Flatten the curve.
Yeah. Then, I might feel a little bit more comfortable doing it, but I'm not going to go to some big pachanga where there's 50,000 people there.
That leads to my next question. Major League Baseball. We're missing the whole season.
Yeah, man, I miss being out there with you.
At the juice box.
I don't know. They've talked about, some people have said half a season. They've talked about just getting a late start and going into December. But I don't know, man. I just don't know.
That's what I was going to say. Is the 2020 season over?
It's a good question. I think when we get to June, July, seeing what the status of everything is, then the Major League Baseball will be able to make a decision. But,
there's no way. There's 162 games in the season.
A lot of games, man.
There is no way if we haven't played one game by June, they're already playing, I mean, 7 games a week, maybe more. They play sometimes 10 days straight before they have a break.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that they're going to be able to make up those games, unless they're doing 2 games a day. I mean, there's just no way.
Yeah. Yeah, the question becomes, as we get into the summer, do you do half a season or do you call it the season and wait till next year? I don't know. I just don't know.
What's interesting to me and sad actually is that there are so many people dependent on something like Major League Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many businesses that their year is made during the Major League season or the NFL season or the NBA season, right?
Right.
From the restaurants, the home plate grill right in front of Minute Maid Park, all the
Yep.
advertisers that spend advertising dollars for the commercials, the all the ads that get played while we're at the game.
Right.
To the nonprofit, the charity that collects sells raffle tickets during the game. I mean, there's so much devastation caused by this, and then you're going to leave the question, if let's say in June or July even they're ready to start playing.
Yeah.
Our team's going to say, hey, it's not fair. We are only going to get 100 games. You've seen the Houston Astros not do so well the first half of the season. Then the second half, they take off, and they have these winning streaks and end up winning the pennant. So, I mean, it's just going to be interesting to see, do they say, okay, we're just going to call the season, or we're just going to try to, recoup what we can and,
Right.
have 100 games this season or 90 games this season. I mean, it's just, it's crazy. What's shocking to me is just, because I think the coronavirus started coming out in October, or at least started catching wind of it here.
Right.
October timeframe.
Right.
And yeah, it was on the radar. It was a concern. But we've had other instances like the swine flu, the H1N1. And it didn't come to this extent. I think what's crazy is that, when you see places like New York, they've had 10,000 deaths.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
That's incredible.
I mean, you've got people on people living on people, and it's so congested and crowded. You can see how that spreads like wildfire. So that's why, thank God, Houston is so expansive.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not people living on top of people. I'm sure that makes a difference.
I was telling Patricia yesterday, I bet in Idaho or Kansas, and again, I don't know the stats, but I bet in some of these rural places where it's nothing but farmland, they're not really experiencing it like we are, or New York, Los Angeles, the heavily condensed areas.
Right. Yeah, like my sister and brother-in-law at the farm. The closest farm is, but I mean, you got to get in the car and drive to the next closest farm. So yeah, they can walk, they can be outside, no problem. There's nobody around, what have you. So that in and of itself provides an area of sanctuary for them. And in fact, I may head out there later this afternoon to help my brother-in-law with some of the calves he wants to work on.
So as of now, you can do consultations via Zoom.
Right.
Are you getting any requests for families at home saying, man, I'm so angry, I want to talk to a divorce attorney on Zoom?
Yeah, not yet, but I've gotten a lot of calls for wills. People want to do their wills, powers of attorney for medical and financial matters. Understandable under the current situation.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing is figuring out how to execute them. But I think I've got it figured out, because we have a small office here, and it's just me and my office mate who does his own thing. I do my own thing, and he has a legal secretary who's a notary. But the office is big enough to where we can make arrangements to where nobody's close to each other.
Okay, I got a good question for you.
Huh? Yeah.
So I get a call from an agent. They have a buyer on one of my listings. I have the house on the market right now. She said, we're going to put in an offer, but we have one caveat. There's one issue. And I said, okay, what's going on? She said, basically, her and her husband are getting divorced. The divorce has already been negotiated, written up. The order's been written up, but they, just haven't been able to get it signed by the judge because of the coronavirus. It's being postponed. This is not an emergency. Everyone's in agreement of everything. As you know, Texas is a common property state. So she can't she can't close this house until the divorce is final. Otherwise, her still husband will have an interest in that house.
Well,
the
question becomes, when was that divorce proved up? Because the moment the judge, it's proved up and the court grants a divorce, she's divorced at that moment. The order may not be signed for 2 weeks or 3 weeks down the line for appellate purposes, but she's divorced at the time the court grants that divorce. So,
Right. So by proofed up, you mean presented to the judge?
yeah.
Yeah. So that's what they're waiting on. They're waiting on their hearing. It's been pushed back a few times.
Well,
and now it's being pushed back indefinitely until this clears up because it's not an emergency. There's no
if
domestic violence going on or anything.
Well, actually, the rules that the family judges put out altogether allows a decree to be proved up in writing. So if everything's been signed, everything's been prepared, they can just offer some written testimony, submit it to the court, and the judge should sign off on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But are the family law judges, are they holding open court yet, or?
No, there are no docket calls. There are no walk in and prove up for non-essential matters. The 3 courts that are open to hear all the matters of all the different courts, you can make an appearance there if it's a CPS case. Like I have a CPS case I've been appointed on, and if there's a hearing set next month, then yes, I can go to court and appear on that. Okay. If somebody comes in and says, "Hey, Anthony, my husband won't give me back my child, and my child is, I'm entitled to my child," I can file a habeas corpus and set it for a hearing, and we'll get into court because that's an essential matter.
Okay.
But everybody is just trying to adapt to the current situation, so there remain a lot of questions. So the courts put out these uniform policies and procedures, but each court has its own particular rules as well as how they're going to address the situation. So coordination is very important in a situation like this. If a lawyer wants to have a hearing, communicate with the court coordinators and get some feedback to make sure there's no delay in what needs to be done. But it's good that the courts are doing this. It's good that the engineer has closed down a lot of the courts because, when people have to go to court, they're scared of missing court. For the most part, they're not going to miss it. And so can you imagine somebody who's sick and may have it? Oh, there's no way I can miss court. I got to go. And you got a courtroom full of people. That's a dangerous combination.
Yeah.
So this is the safest way to do it.
It's good, but the thing is, it can get tricky because I'll give you an example. I had a sale closed last year, towards the end of the year, and we had been same deal. We've been postponing it. We had to extend the closing date a few times because the final divorce order was not yet signed by the judge. Mm-hmm. Now, I understand what you're saying. Technically, hey, there's an agreement. Everybody's in agreement. At least just prove it to the court and, get it done. However, the lender, so the bank loaning the money for this purchase to the soon-to-be ex-wife, they said until there's a final divorce signed, they were demanding that her soon-to-be ex-husband signs the trust, which the deed of trust is basically, as you know, allows them to foreclose if they need to. If someone defaults on the loan, the lender can foreclose. Even though she said we are at the very end of the divorce, everything's final, he has no interest in the property. They said, okay, then he can sign the deed of trust. Mm-hmm. What he didn't know is he didn't want to sign this. He thought signing the deed of trust would make him be obligated to pay this loan if she defaulted.
Yeah.
And now when you have an inexperienced attorney, not one like yourself, they're advising him and telling him, no, don't sign anything.
Right. And the private entity, especially one that's loaning money,
exactly,
is going to say, I want to see something in writing.
Exactly.
And if I represented them, I'd say, get something in writing. Even though we know the divorce is granted at the time it's proven up and the order's not signed 2 weeks later, I would tell the lender, get something signed. Always have it in writing and have proof.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he who has the gold makes the rules, right? He or she who has the gold makes the rules. So they're saying we're not doing this loan unless he signs a deed of trust or you give us a final order signed by the judge.
Sure. I totally understand that. I totally understand that. Yeah.
So we kept postponing it, but at the same time, it's not fair to all the parties involved. She wants to move in the house.
Mm-hmm.
My client needed to sell the house,
mm-hmm.
and this is all being delayed because their divorce is stalled. So these situations get a little hairy, a little difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's saying, I'm not signing anything because my attorney said don't sign anything.
Right.
What do you say to these situations? How do we get these resolved? And when all we need is a judge's signature, and it's sometimes it seems like it can take a while to get these judges to sign something.
Well, remember, if the courts are hearing everything by submission, you can imagine the amount of paperwork in their office, and it's going to take time to do that. But again, if it's a question of getting the order signed, everybody has signed off on the decree. It's just waiting for the judge's signature. They can file that, and it's been proven up. Just file it, and the clerk can get it in front of the judge for signature.
Okay.
If it hasn't been proven up, then you can submit in writing a prove up, if you will. The questions you would ask them live, put it in writing, submit it with the order that's been signed by everybody, and the judge can look at it and grant the divorce and sign the order.
Do these judges really read these orders?
I can't answer for the judge. I'm assuming if they've got 100 orders in front of them, they're going to probably at least skim some of them, or all of them rather.
That's what I was wondering. I mean, they got all these orders, and they're like novels. Like, do they really read all of this?
I would think at the very least they skim them. But I spend hours reviewing a final order. I can't charge the client for all that time I spend on it, but that's a document that's going to guide them from here on out.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure it's right.
Absolutely.
So it's really the responsibility of the lawyer to read it, not at the end of the day, not the judge. Yeah.
And so if an attorney says, look, judge, my client needs to close on a house.
Mm-hmm.
We need this sign. Does the judge care? Like, so you're buying a house. How's that my problem?
Well, number one, the attorney's not going to be able to call the judge and talk to him personally, especially if there's another lawyer on the other side. That's an ex parte communication. That's forbidden by our rules of ethics.
Okay.
And so at the end of the day, it's urgent for everybody who wants their decree to be signed for it to get signed. So, I mean, I think you just got to wait your turn until the judge gets to it and signs it, man.
Okay. Okay. And often these cases are postponed. Why?
Which cases?
Final order cases, where it just seems like a, how do you put it? It just seems like something that go through the process. It's just a ceremonial thing. Hey, everyone agrees. We have an order. We just need a judge's signature on it. And then it gets postponed. And then get postponed again.
Well, hearings that were set prior to, within the last month, that were set for an entry, that is, hearings to go before the judge in the event both attorneys had a drafting dispute. If we didn't have the current virus situation, those orders would have been submitted and signed. But everything obviously is backlogged because of the current situation. But I can tell you that things are more litigious now than they were 10 years ago.
Meaning people want to sue.
It's just, yeah, they want to sue. They want to fight about everything. It's just the courts are busier now than they were 10 years ago with people that want to fight about everything versus trying to work something out to avoid the expense and the time involved in litigation. Because just because you're set for a hearing on one day does not mean you're going to get reached. If there's 50 things set on the docket that day, easily get reset. another month down the line. And you got to pay your lawyer to sit in the courtroom for a couple of hours. So it's not cost effective to be at the courthouse. And one should not assume that just because you're set for a hearing at 9 o'clock on, May the 6th, that you're going to be the first one reached and you're going to be out of there in a couple of hours. That's just simply not the case. And we're a big county.
But if you're backlogged, if these courts are already backlogged.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
What's going to happen now that there's been no hearings? Let's just say, we'll throw a number out there. There's been no hearings for 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then the courts open in June or July. Holy moly, what are you going to do? I mean, now we not only all the new cases from all the people angry from being on quarantine with their wife and husband, but on top of that, all the ones that haven't been heard. What's going to happen then?
It's just everybody's going to have to wait their turn, man. They just have to wait their turn. It's going to be backlogged even more.
Wow.
I mean, that's just the nature of this beast. How many people in Houston, in the greater Houston area? About 5 or 6 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
how many divorce cases are there per year in, let's say, Harris County, approximately?
Oh, heck, I wouldn't know, man. I just wouldn't know. I think some of these courts have 3,000 to 5,000 cases in each one. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Do cases get dismissed? Does somebody say, you know what, I want to make up with my wife?
Sure.
I changed my mind.
Right. Yeah, just because one files a divorce does not mean they have to go through with it. They can non-suit it or dismiss it. If it sits and they're not doing anything and it sits for a year or so, the court will set it for a hearing to determine whether or not the parties want to continue pursuing it or not. If not, it will get dismissed by the court. So,
okay.
So there's some mechanism in place for that.
Excellent. I want to take some questions. We have some questions from some of our viewers. Absolutely. Terry Knight, a good friend of mine, Terry Knight. How's it going, Terry? He's asking, do you do probate?
I do probate, probating wills. And if there's not a will, we can do an heirship along with an independent administration. The purpose of the heirship is to determine who the heirs of the deceased are. And a lot of times it's like, well, I have a brother and sister and we didn't have any more kids, so what is there to figure out? But the court's got to go through the formal process of determining that if there are any other heirs, even if he's aware that there's no other heirs, he's still got to go through that process. And then once the heirs are determined, an independent administration of the estate.
What happens when we cannot locate one or more heirs? Somebody passed away. There's 5 brothers and sisters. Yep. 2 of them want to sell the house to me, and I'm buying the house. Mm-hmm. And they don't know where their other brothers or sisters are. What do we do? I call you. I say, we're going to call Anthony Magdaleno. And we don't know where their brothers and the other ones, or we're missing one brother, one heir, or 2. What can we do? Can we do anything?
Is there a will or is there not a will?
There's no will. Someone passed away, and the property's deteriorating. The property taxes are going past due, and so I want to buy it. Right? I want to buy. I want to come in. I want to clean up the property. I want to make good use of it. I want to pay the property taxes current. 2 out of 4 heirs want to sell it to me, and they say, we don't even know where the other heirs are. We don't know if they're alive. We don't know where they are. We don't know what happened.
When there's an heirship that's done, the court will appoint an attorney to protect the interests of the unknown heirs and any minors that might be involved. And so that attorney will talk to the siblings, any relatives, try to track down and see where the other heirs are, and see what luck he has in finding them. But that can get a little bit time consuming and, for lack of a better term, hairy, in trying to find out where somebody is you haven't talked to in 10, 15, 20 years.
How long could those cases drag on?
It just depends. It just depends. how cooperative everybody is and how much information they can, they can come up with. And it may be, I haven't talked to my brother for 10 years. There's no way I can find him. And if the attorney keeps talking to him, oh, but by the way, he did have a girlfriend that he keeps in contact with occasionally, and she lives down the street. The lawyer may call her and she says, yeah, I talked to him last week. He's living over there in Dallas. I mean, it just depends.
So now, if no one's paying property taxes and this ends up in court, the county cannot foreclose on this property while it's going through the legal process. Is that correct? Or?
Well, if the taxes are not being paid, there's some particular tax courts down there that hear tax matters for properties where the taxes are not being paid. So the quote government can come in, the taxing authorities can come in and say, we want to get this house, we want to sell it, and we'll be able to pay the taxes.
Okay. Yeah, and that usually happens after quite some time. Yeah. But if you have heirs who inherited it and they say, hey, we don't have any money to pay the taxes, to buy it, but they can't because we can't locate the heirs, then the court obviously has to get involved.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes intra-family disputes. You may have 5 kids, and the house is really important to that one child, adult child, but nobody else wants to help share with the taxes, excuse me. And so that one child, adult child, pays the taxes, but then the others, if it goes into probate, want an equal interest in the house. So it can get real sticky in that family dynamic.
Okay. Excellent. Is there anything else you want to bring up or cover?
No, I think it's just smart to sit tight right now, and let this thing pass. I mean, as everybody knows, this virus needs a host to survive, and the hosts are me and you. And so if we stay in our own separate little abodes and don't give it any person to go to, then hopefully it starts dying down. But I'm just prepping for the calm after the storm. I mean, the storm after the calm, which is, are people going to be ready? More people going to be ready for a divorce because they've been stuck in the same house with each other? Are there going to be more protective order cases? I mean, I hope not, but you never know. More people may want to do wills and get their estates in order. So I'll be ready for that. And the ironic thing, I mean, I'm not married, I don't have a girlfriend or anything, but doggone, I wish I was married or had a girlfriend, but not both. And because I'd be enjoying going home and watching a movie with her, So yeah. Different strokes for different folks.
Well, it's great because me and my wife, Patricia, we have happy hour every day.
I know we were supposed to set one up, right? Via Zoom.
Oh yeah. That's just so I can have a happy hour with some of my friends because me and Patricia have a happy hour every day.
Oh.
3 o'clock. I joke with her. I tell her, hey, what time's happy hour today? And she says, 3 o'clock sharp.
Well, I know y'all invited me, so let's set one up the next couple of days.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll make a michelada at the house, and I'll have one with y'all. We can talk online.
yeah, that'll be great.
Hey, good to see you, brother.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it, like always.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
How can anybody reach you? How can they, get a consult with you?
They can,
or hire you for legal advice.
The office number is 713-977-2060.
We're gonna post that. Hold on.
Okay.
Repeat it one more time.
Yeah, actually, let me give you. My direct line is 713.
Okay.
977-2264.
All right.
And the regular general office number is 713-977-2060.
Okay.
If any of your friends call you and want my number, you can give them my cell phone number.
All right.
Okay.
I did pass your name on to a good
Don't
friend.
give me their name. Don't give me their name.
Yeah.
A friend of yours?
Huh?
A friend of yours?
Yeah, I did pass your name on. Hopefully they called you. They had some legal questions. So.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. It's a big thing to call a lawyer. So you may give them a number, and it may be days or weeks before they call, if they even call at all. It's a big step. It's a big step. So we'll see if that person calls. But I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny. Sometimes people ask me, and I tell them all the time, I'm not a lawyer. I can't give you legal advice, but I can refer you to a good lawyer. But, you know, sometimes they still want to ask me, well, what do you think? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? I say, you know, it sounds like you're asking a legal question. Let me refer you to a good lawyer. And I have a great friend, Anthony Magdaleno, the second, one of the top Texas family law attorneys in Texas. And I'll be sending people to you.
I appreciate your kind words very much. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We'll have to plan that happy hour, that virtual happy hour. I've never done one before.
Absolutely. We're going to do it too.
Let's plan it, man.
Bring your own booze.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. At home.
At home. Absolutely.
Well, tell Patricia I said hello.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Say hello to the family.
I'll do that.
We love you. We appreciate you, and God bless, and make sure you stay safe.
Love you too, brother, man. Likewise, okay? And we'll wait. We'll count down to the first Astros game.
Oh, I can't wait. I hope they don't cancel the whole season, but, you know, we'll see.
Keep our fingers crossed.
Yes, sir.
And remember my chair. Remember my chair?
Let me see. Oh, man. I love it. I love it.
Good to see you, bro.
Good to see you. Appreciate you, and stay safe. We'll see you soon.
Do the same. Thank you to everybody on Facebook, too.
Yes, sir.
Okay, take care, buddy.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.